the different policies of the Indians for the science and technology. So before this one, I would like to request our Dr. Brett Prakash ji to kindly give the formal introduction of our honorable speaker to all the panelists and all the participants. Dr. Brett Prakash ji, please.
Hello, good morning to all of you. I'm audible, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, it's audible.
Okay. So I want to just give a brief introduction about sir. Still people are joining. I think they are confused. Refresher participants are a little bit confused. They are joining with other link. This link is...
This side, no, you are not feeling.
Yes, now it must better.
Okay. So, Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Vasne, sir, is the head of the International Scientific Cooperation in the Ministry of Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. He joined DST in 1990 and is facilitating international scientific cooperation from the Department of Science and Technology with its bilateral, multilateral, and regional scientific partners. He is Indian co-chair, government body, Indo-German Science and Technology Center and Indo-US Endowment Fund, member, Board of Director of Private Limited Company, Global Innovation and Technology Alliance, and is member governing council of the US-India Education Foundation, International Advanced Research Center of Power Metallurgy. He is Indian focal point for BRICS Working Group on Science and Technology and OECD Committee on Science and Technology Policy. He is member Board of Research Studies in Department of Geology, Aligarh Muslim University. He has worked as counselor with Embassy of India in Moscow to facilitate bilateral scientific cooperation between India and Russia during April 2008 to June 2011. He has been contributing to promotion of international scientific cooperation as well as scientific industrial cooperation. He completed Master in Geology in 1984 from Aligarh Muslim University with University Medal for obtaining first position. He qualified UGC NET in 85 for JRF Fellowship and Lecturership. He pursued research at University of Delhi during 85 to 90 on Himalaya river systems, sedimentation, diagenetic and tectonic modifications. He was also awarded Dr. D.N. Wadia Research Fellowship in 86 for his research on Himalayan geology. He is Life Fellow of Geological Science Society of India, Bangalore, Nepal Geological Society, Kathmandu, and member of International Association of Sedimentologists, Oxford. He also has number of certificates to his credit. He also taught at Kurukshetra University in 1990. He has written several articles on science policies focusing on international scientific cooperation. He is also involved in science popularization for which he writes a newspaper and magazines also. So with all these words, I want to invite Dr. S.K. Vasne sir to give a introduction about new science policy of India. Please, sir.
Thank you, Ved Prakash, and namaskar to everyone. It is my pleasure to be talking to you from the platform of Mizoram University. All of you are familiar that science is one thing which keeps on moving and taking new shapes. So dynamism in science is very important. And so have been this time. Last year, India adopted new national education policy, and already a number of reforms which have been prioritized by the government have been indicated. And during this COVID time, when most of us were sitting at home, we undertook this exercise of consultation and formulation of new science, technology, and innovation policy, which is yet to be adopted by the country, but it is in advanced stage of consideration, and most likely cabinet will consider it in one of their meeting, and we are hoping that this new science, technology, and innovation policy would be adopted by the nation sometime in this year. Now, just to give you a brief historical context, science has been a priority of the country right since independence. And when Pandit Nehru, our first Prime Minister, said that scientific institutions are temple of the modern India, soon thereafter we started working on the first science policy. And what we thought that if you could foster, promote, and sustain cultivation of science and scientific research in all its aspects. And this policy, which was adopted in 1958, continued its march. And then in 83, we came up with another policy, which is called technology policy. And there we emphasize the need to acknowledge or to attain technological competence and self-reliance. Now here, you know that when the Buddha smiled for the first time, there were a lot of technological curbs imposed on India, and soon thereafter, a feeling of now what we call self-realization or self-dependence came into being, and we adopted this policy nearly 8 years or 9 years after the Buddha smile to attain the technology competence. And then during the 100th session of Indian Science Congress, we came up with the new science and technology policy, where first time we integrated science and technology to the socio-economic sector so that we could come with a feeling and we could create an innovative platform. And remember, innovation for the first time in Government of India policy documents was used in 2003. Of course, now it is catching up and we are talking, but see development that in 58, it was only science policy. In 83, it was only science and technology policy. But in 2003, when we are talking about it, we already started talking S and T for I, for innovation. And accordingly, in 2013, a new science, technology, and innovation policy came into being, which focused on faster, sustainable, and inclusive development of our people. Now, with this background, we started working on the new science and technology innovation policy, virtually 8 years after the first thing it came into being. Now, this policy is very different from the previous ones. What we did, unlike the other exercises, this time we used a bottom-up approach. So we started asking suggestions from the people. And because it was COVID time, people were sitting at home and they were engaged. So a lot of suggestions came. We received more than 100,000 suggestions. And then it was decentralized. What we did, that we divided it into various parts, which I'll come a little later. And then I could say that it is expert driven or evidence driven. So basic approach is, let us see what people would like, what are our circumstances, how do experts feel, how do several state government feels, and that is how we would take it forward. So we divided this policy into 4 parts. The first part, or track 1, which is extended public and expert consultation. And this took a lot of time. And this was most crucial thing actually, because when you get public suggestions, they could be very varied and you need to collate them, put them into a sequence so that people could understand. And second was that based on the suggestions we received, we created several tracks, and then each track or each theme, we appointed several experts. And these experts were not only some very, very senior fellows. They were people from different sector, and I'll come to it little later. Then we also consulted various ministries, even if they are not dealing with science and technology. We consulted them. We consulted several state governments because we would like participation of state government to increase in science and technology. So we consulted them. And then we had a apex level committee meeting where most of the recommendations have been finalized. And I am so happy to inform you that I was involved in track 2 and track 4 in developing policy guideline for international cooperation. Now, if you see whom did we consult? So during this period, we got suggestions from several people, and they were research scholars, young scientists, state government officers, different ministries, vice chancellors, and directors of the university or academic institutions, women scientists from different parts, industry captains, civil societies, representative of specific regions like Northeast, tribal regions, knowledge institutions. Even we consulted for the first time our diaspora, Indian STEM diaspora actually. We consulted various embassies, their science representative in Delhi, and also our embassies abroad who are in promotion of science and technology. And then we created 21 thematic groups, and there was participant from across the table, and there were discussions, surveys, podcasts, ideathon, open let, so all kind of things. So you can imagine the kind of base we had. And then what we could came that if I could just tell you how we did it, then this is one of the largest, widest, quickest, and most intense exercise for any national policy formation in the country. Remember, when we are comparing it with recently announced education policy, it took nearly 5 years. Dr. Kasturi Rangan Committee. But here we did it entirely in COVID period. So we organized nearly 300 consultations in 6 months, average 2 meetings per day, involving nearly 43,000 stakeholders and received 100,000 suggestions. So you can imagine how many suggestions and what was the public response when we opened it for consultation. And then this is the first policy, first ever policy with direct involvement of Indian states. Now, this is something I would like to say that some of the Indian states are showing good interest in science and technology in their respective state, and their state science and technology council are very active. On the other hand, many other states are not that active in science. So we would like all these states to have a very, very active science and technology councils, and for that reason, we involve them in the formulation of this document. And also, we consulted our diaspora. So, our diaspora, STEM diaspora, is quite rich, and we got a lot of good suggestions from them. So, as far as contributors are concerned, it's a very well distributed participation in terms of region, age, gender, education, economic status when we were carrying out this exercise. Gender balance has been maintained throughout, including in the process of editorial and drafting, and 40% of the members are women, and they dominated both policy input and drafting exercise. Also, in terms of age, there was a good mix, and the youngest member was 25-year-old, oldest being 80 plus, and youngest participant of the survey was even 10-year-old, and oldest was 85-year-old. This is just a brief gist of the highlights. As far as document is concerned, it is divided into 11 chapters, and I'm going to discuss with you in brief each of these chapters, how we have envisaged and how it is going to impact. So first of all, we are talking about open science policy. Now, I think all of you are aware that open science is one of the new concepts that is coming up globally, and it is aimed to provide access to larger groups of society for formation of any future document or future studies. So what we are trying to say that we would create a central repository for all kind of data generated from our ecosystem. And for this purpose, now anybody, any researcher from any part of the country would have an access to this observatory. Similarly, we'll create a portal to where access outputs of all public funded research, including manuscript, research, supplementary information, protocol, review article. So anything, if that has been done with the public support, then their result would be there, not the raw data. Raw data still remains with the researcher. Only the published output or output which is in the public domain would be put on this data. We are also considering that if we could bring in a fair policy which is findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable for any kind of data that has been generated and published to be provided in this thing. And then also any accepted paper should have access across the country. And the most important thing what we are talking about is right to education, right to knowledge. So if there are some knowledge which is already printed and we would like it to be accessible to everyone. For example, you are Mizoram University. You might be subscribing 20 journals. IIT subscribe 100 journals. So a researcher who is engaged in IIT has access to 100 journals, whereas a researcher engaged in Mizoram University would have access to 20 journals. Why? So what we are trying that instead of institutional subscription, if we pay national subscription and we take permission from the publisher that with this national subscription, any researcher in this country would have access to our journal. So this is what we are negotiating. We have proposed, and we would like that all our researchers should have right to published knowledge. The second chapter is on capacity development, and what we are trying to do is that already concept of higher education institution has been introduced in national education policy, and what we are trying to do is supplement it with research excellence framework. So what we are trying that here in the education policy, we are talking about holistic, dynamic institutions, and we are trying to add responsive research base across full academic spectrum. That is what we are trying. Secondly, what we are looking for is that we have got several institutions which are not called universities, which are called research institution, institution of eminence, and other things. If required, we could give them interdisciplinary projects involving science and technology and social science-based intervention. Now, this is what we are looking how science and technology gets a societal connect and how each of our research is impacting society. You know, it's a very slow process we don't realize. For example, very common example I can give you that 20 years ago or 30 years ago, we were very, very naive and our home was safe. Today, each of our home has got 5 telephone phones and probably a broadband connections, and we have got webs of electromagnetic waves all around us, and we don't know how it is going to impact us. So we need to see how technological development impacts on the society. So this is what we would like that people should take it up and create this thing. we are also talking about creation of innovation and entrepreneurship center. Here, what we have realized that in an area, there should be a good integration, that there is an academic institution like university, and there are industry in those sectors, small and medium enterprises, startup, and they should be interconnected. And it would be good, for example, you are in Mizoram, you know what are the natural resources. Suppose around that, if everything focuses, so university is focusing on that, industry is focusing on that, a lot of innovation ideas are coming through that, and we are converting university not only a degree giving organization, but also an organization promoting incubation, promoting innovation, promoting entrepreneurship. So this is what we would like in time to come. And then creating teaching learning center. So we would like to have a good mix, how people in urban area and rural area could be upskilled, because you see there is a regular progress in various aspects of science and technology, and things are changing so fast. So if we restrict ourselves to the textbook level content, probably we will not be up to date. So we need to constantly monitor what is happening in the research world, connect it to our bachelor and master classes, and for that purposes, the faculty need to be upskilled, and it has to be a regular exercise. So if all these four things, what we are talking about is capacity development in terms of infrastructure, in terms of enriching universities, in terms of expecting universities to come up and promote innovation and entrepreneurship, and also expecting them to keep their faculty upskill, up to date with the latest developments. And what we are trying to do is that we are trying to promote through this policy collaborative research centers, which will bring together all possible stakeholders, be it industry, startup, institution, and universities, with the government, and we could collectively work on a given theme. And we are also talking that if the existing research institution could be converted into universities, because there is a continuous generation of knowledge even in the institution. So if they could be empowered to undertake research and education. Right now they are doing only research, but we are trying to link that, if they could be linked through research and education, so that research infrastructure could be effectively utilized. And then we are also trying to create independent and professionally managed self-sustaining equipment infrastructure. Now, I must tell you that this exercise, just now, this self-sustaining equipment infrastructure, we have already started under a program of department called SATHI, sophisticated and analytical technical infrastructure. So SATHI has already started, and 3 campuses we have started in Kharagpur, Banaras, and Delhi. And we would be creating 3 such centers each year. These centers would be given an initial support of nearly 150 crores, and they would be housing very, very sophisticated equipment which are not possible with each institutions. But these utilization of these equipment would not be free. There would be charges. Charges would be different for different category of users. For example, research student will get it at the least charge, whereas industry will get it at the highest charge. So idea is that with these initial seed funding, if we create such centers, and these centers go for self-sustaining mode, so we would be providing research infrastructure facility across to our students, institutions, companies, etc. The next chapter is on financing, and this is a very, very dynamic thing. quite different from the one existing here. And what we are looking for is that each of the government department, irrespective of the fact whether they are scientific department or non-scientific department, they should provide some funding for the research. Now, each department has got several aspects of research. For example, Ministry of Petroleum. Now, we do scientific department promote a lot of research in petroleum, but who should fund it? So ideally, that research funding should come from Petroleum Ministry. Similarly, if you are talking about women and child development, there are so many issues which are dealt by our social scientists, our medical scientists, but funding do not come from the women and child ministry. It comes from science departments. So what we are trying, that if each of the government department puts an allocation, and that we have requested around 2% of their budget on the research, then it would be possible to work on larger socio-economic condition of our citizens, and we could see how science and technology and socio-economic condition could be merged. Similarly, we have requested each state that they should also earmark a budget of state allocation on science and technology. Now, as I said earlier, some of the states are quite active. On the other hand, few other states or most of the states are little bit passive on science and technology. But what we have requested, and we ask for their participation and their commitment, that they should put some allocated budget for science and technology and innovation activity under a separate budget head. And we have been given good assurance by number of states for this purpose. We are also, now India is housing a lot of foreign multinational companies, and what we are looking is how we could engage them with our startups, with our educational institutions, so that they could also do research on projects aligned to national needs and priorities. And then we are also giving private sectors some benefit, fiscal benefits for investing in science and technology. So there would be incremental R&D based tax incentive, tax credit for investing in facilities, tax holidays, and very recently our finance minister has announced that as part of corporate social responsibility, they could put their money also in research. So this is another new incentive that we have received from the government, that earlier CSR was only for education, but now they have included the word research. We are also enhancing, on the other hand, government is also enhancing financial support to industry, especially to small and medium enterprises, to pursue research through innovation. Earlier there was a clear no that private sector won't be supported through government grants. But now in the new regime, while promoting industrial research and development, we have come up with several schemes where we are not only supporting startup, small and medium enterprises, but also full private industries, as long as they are doing two kind of things. Number one, they are promoting innovations. They are willing to take risk on something in commercialization of something which is proven at lab scale. So they need to upscale and commercialize it. So government is trying to partner with them. And we are doing this funding through high-risk projects, revenue-based financing, seed grants, loan, subsidy, equity, research, or IPR credit, whatsoever is convenient to the private sectors. And then we are also trying to create a bank, like we have IDBI, Industrial Development Bank. So on the same line, we are trying to create a SCI Development Bank. And this bank would be creating a corpus fund, which could be invested in long-term gains. So long-term strategic area would be identified, converted into commercial ventures and startup, resulting into technology diffusion, and licensing. So this we are trying to work it out. Also, we have realized that our researchers have a lot of difficulties in doing projects and following GFR. So we are trying that how it, for to facilitate ease of doing research, if some of the GFR could be amended to facilitate research in the fourth chapter is research. Now here we are talking that how we could make use of the experience of faculty in universities, in industries to work in the government. And here we are trying to invite people from academia and industries to work with government at both national and international. So what this would help us that this way we would be having a better vision, and research solution what we are looking for is should be for different regions, socio-economic strata, and focusing on rural problem of the country. And then we are creating a public funded research is largely invisible to target stakeholders such as line ministry. So because the kind of work we are doing does not give us immediate result, and return on investment is not as obvious as in the commercial projects. So we are trying to create a picture, a sketch we are trying to develop to convince other ministries that when we are working on their subject, how it is shaping up and contributing to the national economy. We are also committed for ease of doing research. So what we are trying to do is that through the digitization, we are putting less and less effort, less and less pressure on the faculty to do administrative works. So like award, funding, UC, SE, how it could go if we are digitizing it and it just goes on the click of a button and everyone is satisfied, even researcher, even the funding agency, how it has to go. And similarly, through this open online platform, we are trying to share knowledge and resources. And then we are working on new benchmarks for ease of doing research so that research activities are adequately funded, less bureaucratic, and accountability is in both directions. So not only with the researcher, but also with the funding agencies. The next chapter is on innovation and entrepreneurship. And here we are trying to create an institutional architecture for integrating traditional knowledge system and grassroots innovation into overall education, research, and innovation. Now, I think in a place like Mizoram, this thing is very, very important. How to document traditional knowledge and validate it scientifically so that it is accepted globally. And this will create a confidence in the local community on the scientists, that once the process is scientifically validated, taken to the market, broader market, so they will get a better revenue. So what we are trying, if we could develop collaboration between grassroots innovators and scientists so that they could do such exercise. And this we are trying to do through joint research projects, fellowship, and scholarship. And grant through innovator, those fellow with traditional knowledge, they would be supported for registration, claiming IPR, filing of patent, or any type of legal claim with the help of academic institution. And then we are trying that if we could create virtual incubators and accelerators in different parts of country using cluster-based approach. So we may identify each area, what is their richness, like Prime Minister has already said that one district, one area of excellence where they could work. And if we have our universities and industries working on same thing, so probably such approach would help us taking it further. The next stage is that after research, we come to the technology development and also its indigenization. So what we are trying to do is we are going to promote indigenous technology, even if relatively marginally better technology exists internationally. So right now, there is a feel that imported technologies are better as compared to Indian technology. So the level of confidence or level of trust on our own technology is relatively lower. And this is what we would like to increase, that how indigenous technology need to be promoted. Also, if not full equipment or full product, then at least key product or component which are imported by Indian companies for their manufacturing plant would be identified, and provision would be made to fund such product-based research with industry academia collaboration. So what are the critical things? Suppose we were going for this production of vaccine and API formulation was denied, and our entire vaccine program came to an halt. Now we have to think, should we develop that API at home, or should we continue to depend on overseas resources? So these challenges will come to us in future again in different form for different products. So idea is, if we could do it at home with our own existing things. So existing mechanisms would be strengthened to bring in Indian industry to help bridge the gap from lab to indigenous manufacturing. And then we are also trying to strengthen local R&D capabilities in the production of technology, so which are largely imported. That infrastructure would be set up and existing mechanism would be strengthened to adapt existing technologies to suit the local need. The key word is how the existing technology could adapt to the local need. We are also looking for sustainable technology push to address major socio-economic challenges and changing aspiration of the people. So we need to look for technology which we could sustain for long and also could meet the aspiration of people. And for this purpose, we are trying to set up a strategic technology board which will act as a bridge between several departments and monitor and recommend technology to be bought or indigenously developed in a strategic department or private sector or academic institution in line with self-reliant India. And this board would encourage development of technology and manage this fund would be managed by an independent body to avoid any conflict of interest. We don't want it to be government. We don't want it to be academic institution or industry. So it would be an independent board which would be taking care of this requirement. And then there are several dual use technologies developed in the defense sector which could be used for civilian purposes. And this board will decide which technologies are good for civilian purposes and could be transferred to appropriate industry for large scale production. The chapter 7 is on inclusion and equity and inclusion. And here we are trying to bring in different kind of equity. So for example, we are looking for gender-based equity. Now you remember, you may see in your own university also, of course, I know that Northeast, there are a lot of matriarchal society, but in remaining part of the country, we have a lot of women participation at the initial level. So assistant professor level, even associate professor level, you will have a lot of women participation. But going up, they lose their way. And I can give you just broad example. In this country, we have got more than 20 IIT, not a single woman director. We have got nearly 30 NITs, only one woman director. We have got number of AIMS, not a single director, a woman director. We have got number of IIMs, not a single woman. So what I'm trying to say is that women participation in leadership position is not there. And this is what we are trying to address and trying to nurture mid-career women researchers to take administrative responsibility. We are also trying to bring in LGBTQ plus community into this science and technology fold, and how we could safeguard their interests and rights, and promote their representation and retention in science and technology. And there are special provision we are putting it up for individual differently abled individuals, including Divyangjans, to be given special focus. And they, all institutions are to make structural and cultural changes. Now, the word used here is cultural changes for supporting such excluded group in order to pursue and practice science, technology, and innovation. Further, we are talking about again on gender issues and on these handicaps, that why we are taking their biological age or physical age. We would like to see how long they have been actively engaged in science. And suppose a lady has to go out of career, professional career, for some of the regions, then the age cutoff should be maintained for them at that time. And we are looking that this to be considered for various recruitment, awards, and for funding. And then we are also insisting that couples should not be facing challenge that if only one partner out of a spouse could choose a career and other fellow just depends. So what we are trying that in all governing bodies, funding agency, we are trying that couples are provided career opportunity in organization in the same cities. And then we are looking for an institutional mechanism to bring about diversity, equity, to remove barriers of participation, promotion, incentivization, and ensure that recruitment, retention, and effective engagement of these excluded group and marginalized community at all stages. The next important thing is we are talking about science communication. There is a huge gap what researchers are talking and what our students are reading. So even our graduate students are not aware of the discussions which is going on currently on topic whatever they are studying in research journals. And the language is so difficult that our graduate student or even master students are not ready to immediately accept it. And it takes pretty long for research knowledge to be translated into textbook. So what we are trying that if this is the situation within academic world, how about common people? How does common people who are our taxpayer, how do they consider science and technology? So there is a need that we should engage into a dialogue, take common man into confidence, who is taxpayer, and through the taxes revenue we are at supporting science. So if we could communicate. So what we are trying to do is that we are creating cross-disciplinary platform of science and communication, so that when we are talking to the public, we are not talking about specific research, but we are talking about specific issues, and we are telling them how science and technology is helping them. So there has to be a continuous dialogue between researcher, science communicator, and public. And this way, people will get more and more confidence on the work scientists are doing. So another idea is that we will start with community-centric program, and regional science center would be encouraged to promote science communication in regional languages. Now, this is a very, very weak aspect that most of the time our researchers are talking and using English. And somehow the local touch, the vernacular touch is missing. So we would like that to be revived, and scientists should be talking in local language to the people along with whom they are living. So we are looking for last mile connectivity on different scientific contexts. And then we are looking for publicly accessible, constantly updated and searchable database of science communication, related resources and opportunities. Now, I am very happy that my department has taken up a project to translate science pages of Wikipedia into few Indian languages. To start with, it would be Hindi, Marathi, and Tamil, but then we would be translating all these in other Indian languages. Idea is simple. Right now on Wikipedia, these science pages are written and in different contexts. So what we are trying to translate them, go to our experts, request them to rewrite them in the Indian context and put it in the Indian languages over there. We are also talking and coming up with a new chapter, new policy on scientific social responsibility. And idea is that just like corporate social responsibility, if our scientists and researchers could be motivated to get engaged in science communication and public engagement. So what we are trying, that if we could ask several organizations to earmark a percentage of budget as SSR fund for science communication. And then we are also requesting that each department should set up a science communication wing, so that like they are got innovation wing or research wing, so there should be a science communication wing, and whatever new activities, whatever new achievements, whatever new scientific results are available, they should be converted into local languages and conveyed to the society. And for these purposes, we have recommended creation of science media center at both national and regional level, so that it could act as an interface between media, scientists, and science communicators, so that we could take this message to a wider audience on several scientific topics. Then next chapter, where I am also involved, this is trying to create a balance between attracting best talent back home and creating and facilitating channel for diaspora to contribute in national development wherever they are. We are trying to bring in fellowship and internship scheme in India, so that we could not only attract diaspora, but also we could send our students for a global exposure. We are also created a portal. This portal is already in place, where our diaspora could talk to several Indian institutions in a given theme. So I would request Mizoram University also to get registered on this portal, so that, and when they are registering, they have to put some of the research strength on which university is working, and then automatically you will receive some queries from Indian diaspora if they are interested to work with your university. And then we are also working on science and technology for diplomacy, how science and technology is helping diplomacy. For example, in recent times, we are using vaccine as a tool for diplomacy. So India has already exported vaccine to more than 100 countries, and this has gained them a lot of good friends. Similarly, when we are talking about nuclear energy fuel, so 1, 2, 3 fuel, so their diplomacy is working for science, because that fuel is restricted by several conditions. So their diplomacy is helping science. So we are trying to look at balance, what science can do for diplomacy and what diplomacy can do for science. We are also going to create a lot of virtual international knowledge center on a given theme to promote global knowledge and talent exchange by creating venues, visiting fellowship, research scheme, training program, invited lecture. And then we have got science counselors in number of places. We need to increase that number, so that our scientific presence in Indian embassies is enhanced. And then we are talking about governance. So what we are talking here that interministerial STI governance mechanisms would be set up at highest level for building synergy and improving coordination among various ministries to strengthen national ecosystem, science and technology ecosystem. And idea is that since we are expecting that each ministry should contribute to the research, so each ministry should be part of this governance structure, which will define what should be the direction in which research should focus in time to come. Similarly, we are looking for a better connect between center and state on this subject. Now, right now, center-state connect or interstate connect in science and technology are not at their best. And we need to improve their participation, their trust on each other, and go forward for such structures. And what we are looking for is that this is also mentioned in national education policy, that we are trying to create a robust research and innovation governance framework that will be known by the name National Research Foundation to facilitate, stimulate, and coordinate research activity across all these sectors. And when we are creating this foundation, we are also going to standardize research and innovation excellence frameworks, which would be based on international benchmarks, will be formulated to ensure cohesive and transparent evaluation, and a suitable metric would be developed to evaluate and recognize the outcome and impact of research activity. Right now, we may be number 3 in terms of scientific publication, but the impact of our research is rather weak. Our citation of our research work is very low as compared to other countries which are publishing at a good rate. So we need to maintain international comparability. We are going to promote lateral recruitment, as I mentioned earlier, with the joint appointment, that we would be looking for professionals from across the industry and academia to work in government and for a limited period and then go back. And then we are trying to build upon capacity development effort for research and innovations by creating an authority like Capacity Building Authority, which will help us in planning, designing, implementing, and monitoring of various programs at national and state level. And the last chapter is governance. So there would be a STI Policy Institute, which would be having strong national and international connect, would be established with a mandate to serve all aspects of the policy governance. There would be an interoperable STI metadata architecture, which could be developed and maintained by Policy Institute, but could be accessed by any stakeholders. And then we would be strengthening policy research. So this institute would be conducting and promoting nationally and internationally relevant policy research, identify policy gap, and provide evidence for effective policy making. And we would be strengthening science advising mechanism, which is presently developed by several bodies like Cabinet Committee on Science and Technology Information, Interstate Science and Technology meetings. So we would like to strengthen such mechanisms in time to come. So if I could see the overall vision of this policy is to achieve technological self-reliance and position India in top 3 scientific superpowers in a decade to come. We are intending to attract, nurture, strengthen, and retain critical human capital through a people-centric science and technology innovation ecosystem. We are trying to double number of full-time equivalent researchers and gross domestic expenditure in R&D, and also attract private sector contribution to this research expenditure every 5 years. We are trying to build individual and institutional excellence in STI with aspiration to achieve highest level of global recognition and awards to come. Thank you.
Yes, hello.
Yeah.
Lolit sir is not. If there is any question, please type in question and answer box. There are two questions now, sir. I'm asking, then again people will write
Yeah,
there.
yeah, please.
We'll continue. First question is that what is the role of STI in agricultural and healthcare industries?
You know, these two are very critical and vital to Indian research infrastructure. Now, just to tell you the importance of agriculture, what is happening that we are a country with growing population. And right now we have already touched a 1.3 billion mark. On the other hand, in the process of industrialization, we are losing agricultural manpower and agricultural land. So our expectation each day is increasing on yield of our whatever agricultural land we have got. So that is one challenge. Second challenge is how we can do is, one is by improving the yield. Second is by improving our post-harvest losses. Because from farm to the table, we have got nearly 30% losses. So that we need to correct. Now, government is trying its best that how to promote such research where not only we could educate our farmers on best practices, how to increase yield, how to nurture good quality food grains, but also how they could preserve their food crops for a long. And this is where we are constantly working. Similarly, in healthcare, we have got number of issues like providing not only affordable healthcare, but also developing new therapeutics. And you know, we have, in order to reduce the cost, we have come up with open drug policy. So CSIR has taken up a huge project on tuberculosis, but they are take with some other disease also. And our approach is that we need to encourage such research. Now, schemes which I mentioned, like strengthening research infrastructure, raising the human capacity, and providing connection with socio-economic ministry, they are all applicable to all fields, including agriculture and health.
There is next question, sir. How much percentage of net profit allocated to SSR fund?
Well, there is no fixed demarcation that how much they should allocate. And so right now this policy is in formulation stage and we are seeking voluntary contribution. Normally it would be expected like in CSR or like in our request to other socio-economic ministries that 2% of the budget should be given to research. So we may propose that 2% of the budget should be given to SSR activity. But right now, no fixed number is there, and still this policy is in discussion stage.
Next question is, sir, is there any research funds available for students for mini projects, and what are the links to access it?
Well, there is nothing like mini research. What we are expecting is students that if they have got an idea to develop a product, so there are student grants available under a program called NIDHI, National Initiative on Development and Harnessing of Innovation. So there, under this NIDHI program, we are giving grants up to 10 lakh rupees to students to try out their ideas. So we still do not have research grant per se for young students, but we have provisions to encourage if they have got some ideas and they would like to try it.
Okay, so next question is that how much amount and momentum of research of universities have made an impact to STI, ratio of high and low area impacted?
You know, there is a lot of difference in the academic world. You know, on one side we have got IITs or NITs, then we have got central universities, and then we have got state universities. Now, some of these state universities are also doing reasonably well, but most of the state universities and private universities, barring few, have become over a period of time only degree-giving organizations, which was considered not very good. And we would like to promote research infrastructure in them. So department has already come up with a program like FIST, which is like a facilitation of infrastructure in science and technology. So wherever there are classes at undergraduate and postgraduate level, so department is supporting creation of research infrastructure, and this has impacted. If you see last 10 years of research output from India, contribution of Indian university have increased substantially from 10% to 30%. The rest of the papers are coming from our research institution. But in university participation has substantially increased. And we would like to keep it up, and we would like to see our universities doing high-end research. And for that purpose, when I told about the scheme Sathi, self-sustaining, highly sophisticated equipments facility, we are putting them in the academic setup so that our students and faculty could make good use of it. But simultaneously, we are expecting those facilities to be self-sustaining and offer them to MSME, startup, industry on payment basis. So idea is that we would like our universities to become research oriented in time to come.
There is any question from any participants, please you can ask. If you want to interact with sir, that option is also open. Please raise your hands, then I will allow to interact with sir. Anyone wants, then he can interact. Sir, few people wants to interact.
Yeah,
so
please.
I am going to allow Mr.
One by one.
B. Gopalan. Please, I am allowing to you. You can interact with sir. You just unmute. Yes, yes, please. You are permitted, B. Gopalan ji. I think there is some problem with him. Okay. Okay, I am going to allow another one because there is some problem with him. So Ramya Gauri, I am going to allow you. You can ask. You are permitted to ask anything.
Those of you who would like to ask and are unable to unmute themselves or ask, they may write in the question answer box.
Yes, they can write in question and answer section, but they are raising hands but unable to speak.
Hello, sir.
Yes, yes, you can go ahead.
I am from
Devaparta seat is okay.
Sir, I am from Presidency University, Kolkata. Just I have one very big question. The thing is, we are from State University. The thing is, every year we need to submit some research documents, like how you have the documents to the central government. But the thing is, we are not getting any funding apart from our own research project. Neither the university is not also funding us. Neither we have MSc student as well as PhD student. We have to devote a lot of time and teaching. And when it comes to research, we hardly get any time. Now, I agree. Since we are in university, we have to devote some time in research. The government should also provide some funding for that research. Instead of providing the funding, we always have to submit our research report every year and every year. Every year we are enrolling MSc students, but no fund are allotted for their project also. Last 3 years, we haven't received a single fund. So how can we proceed? This is my biggest question.
I missed earlier part of your deliberation. Which institution you belong to?
Presidency University, Kolkata.
Oh, I'm sorry and surprised to hear this thing from presidency. Because I thought they are one of the good universities and they are already putting a benchmark.
So, to interrupt,
Let me
last 3 years
let me
we
just
haven't received any single fund from one university.
no, let me just respond to your thing. You see, there are two components of research funding. One which is provided by Department of Education. So when they are creating any university with the state funding, so state is expected to provide them some support beyond salary and infrastructure, and that is for the research purposes. Now, how university administration takes care of that, it is entirely a subject, internal subject of the university, because there must be some funding from the government. Now, department like ours, we are providing competitive research grant funding. So we encourage your researchers to write proposals to funding agencies like Department of Science and Technology, Department of Biotechnology, Ministry of Earth Sciences, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, yeah, then Indian Council for Social Science Research, even UGC research grants are available, uh, atomic energy grants are available. So you have to see in what discipline your research proposal could be, and encourage your researchers that in addition to whatever assured research funding is given by the state exchequer to university, individuals could go for competitive research grants. And that would help you not only in gaining student confidence, but also a self-satisfaction that now you need not to bank on your institution for buying a equipment or buying a consumable, and you can buy it from your own research grant.
So thank you for this suggestion, sir. I would like to add one more problem which we are really facing. Like suppose I have two projects I'm doing, but I am not getting, since I am a new faculty, I haven't got any student. The reason is that our university policies are probably not promoting such students who are interested in doing research, but they do not have any individual fellowship so that they can apply and they can work with. And in my research, since I am from chemistry background, so most of the fund has been allotted for buying the instrument. So we really don't have any fund to accommodate one student for any from any project proposal fund. So it becomes really difficult for us. And in that scenario, submitting a research report after each and every year, it becomes very difficult. And it's
No, you see, it is rather not that complicated picture. You can encourage your student to go for national examination like JRF, SRF. We are also providing Inspire Fellowship at various level, including master, graduate, and doctoral level. And then there are several programs which are good for students. So grants are available, but then all of these grants are available in a competitive grant model, and you need to compete. And I know initial brush would be tough, because if you are not having a student, you have to do it at your own. And once you get it, then I'm sure battery of students would help you in executing not only that project, but also in earning future projects.
Okay. Next, there is one question, sir. That is from B. Gopalanji. Very informative talk by an able expert. My question is that IIT seat allotment based on JEE rank wise preferences results in top students taking supposed to be creamy courses just because they are eligible, thus denying chances for subsequent rankers who may have better aptitude. Does the new innovation policy has way to encourage such students to contribute in desired field which is not connected to their course?
Of course, first of all, let me be very clear to Dr. Gopalan. Education is not my subject, and it would be very difficult for me to comment on JEE selection criteria. So that is very clear. But then, to second part of his question, if students could be encouraged to pursue something which is not in their course is absolutely fine. You know, even new national education policy talks about the holistic development of the individuals, and they are recommending migration from engineering to music or history or those kind of things. And they are expecting in the education policy that you should pursue your passion, your dreams, rather than what you are reading or forced to read. So students are given an option to change, and wherever they are admitted, they can pursue as long as mentorship is available in that field, because that is very critical. Now, if you get attached to a educational institution, you want to pursue certain thing, but in case that institution is not rich in terms of faculty in that area, then you will find it very, very hard. So idea would be choose a field carefully, see what are the strengths of faculty in a given institution, and if you find yourself comfortable with that strength, go ahead.
There is one question from Usri Raghavendran that, sir, what are schemes available for microbiology students who are studying under self-financing stream, and what are the eligibility criteria for Nidhi scheme? Who can apply for it?
You know, a microbiology student asking me in the pandemic time what microbiology.
Yes.
So, you know, my friend, I'll say that today we are banking a lot on microbiology, not only for our agricultural purposes, but also for our health purposes. And government is giving a lot of incentive to this branch of science. And Department of Biotechnology has created several star colleges for biotechnology. And I would recommend that wherever you are studying or pursuing your career, look for DBT star scheme, and that would be really helpful in pursuing your goal further.
Sir, okay, sir. Sir, next question is that is very common question. I think people can visit website and they can find the answer, but here it is asked by someone that what are the projects available for computer sciences and what are the international collaborative projects? So these two questions I have combined here.
You know, you can go to our website and see what kind of projects we have supported in past. Of course, for violation of IPR, we cannot give you much detail, but at least title of those projects are on our website. So beyond that, there are information because of IP regulation, we are not supposed to make it public. But once they publish their thing, once they complete their projects, we are asking them to put their result also on our social media. So if you see DSC social media, every day it would be full of some stories given by researchers, what kind of work has been achieved under various departmentally supported programs. Now, similarly for international cooperation, you can find information from our website, what kind of projects we have supported. There is no ready-made list that these are the projects you should work upon. It goes by the requirements, and requirement is mostly local. You have to see that what are the challenges in your immediate neighborhood, in the place you live, in the state you live, in the country you live, and how you can answer those questions through research solution. And that is where you will realize you need a research. So obviously you need to understand what are the challenges and what are the existing solutions, and why existing solutions are not providing a satisfactory solution to the problem being faced. And that is where you can improvise and do your research. So it is a constant work which you have to do. and you have to keep an eye on the knowledge available in different part of the world and what you are trying to offer.
I think there is no further question. I have one question, sir. Is there any section where people can put their questions time to time, means their problems, they want to interact with the ministry regarding their local problems? For example, Northeast people can interact with the people, they can ask something. So there is any portal for that?
We have another department which is called Department of Northeast Region, donor.
Yes.
And that department is under the same minister who is handling charge of science and technology. And I would request that you can put your thing over there. In addition, each scientific department has a provision saying contact us. So if you go to any website, whether it is DST, CSIR, DBT, Earth Sciences, electronics, each website will have a place contact us. What I would suggest to you is that contact us may take a little longer because it's a general address.
Yes, yes.
What you can do is you can see directories on that website of different officials and their responsibilities. So once you see different officials and their responsibility, you can connect that who would be the most appropriate. Normally, it is possible that if there is something which is not connected to me, I'll direct it to the concerned official, or I may just sleep over it. So if you do not get a response, please do not hesitate to make a second attempt and write again.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Is there any question that people can ask? We are already very late, sir. Maybe have some other engagement also. So now I will ask Professor Lolit, sir, please.
Sir, good
Yes.
afternoon.
Good morning, good evening.
Someone wants to ask something. Yes, please go ahead. Who is
Sir,
there?
good morning, sir. I am Usha Sri, Assistant
Okay.
Professor from Department of Microbiology, JBS College for Women, Chennai.
Yeah, Dr. Usha, please.
Sir, regarding this STAR schemes, if this STAR scheme is available for self-financing stream or only for aided colleges?
No, it is available to all colleges who are promoting biotechnology in one form or the other, and mostly for biotechnology education.
So, how about the microbiology students, sir? Whether they can apply in
Yes, of course,
biotechnology?
of course, they are included.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Lolit, sir, please.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, our Dr. S.K. Barsnai, sir, for his very elaborative talks on all the schemes and how things has been going to move ahead for the science and technology research, and how the fundings and how the government has been proceeding towards the innovations and all the things like that. Sir, it is a very collectively, and everybody is saying very nice talk. If we can get some kind of the PPTs, and it will be further to get further information like that kind of thing. Lots of appreciations has been coming. So without taking much of your time, your valuable time, sir.
I guess you have recorded it, and I think the link to the recording could
Yes,
be
sir, yes, sir. We have recorded. So if with your permission, without your permission, we cannot share. If you give permission,
No, sure,
then
sure,
we will
sure.
share to the
Sure.
participant. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you, sir. So now, without taking much of your time, I request our another co-host, Dr. Y.T. Singh ji, to propose the formal vote of thanks. Dr. Y.T. Singh ji, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to thank our speaker of today, Dr. S.K. Vasne, who is also advisor and head of the International Division of Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, for the wonderful lecture. We thank you, sir, for your speech. Now, I also like to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor K.R.S. Sambasivarao, for organizing such webinar with such intellect speaker. So thank you all. Again, I would like to thank all the participants for their time, for their participation, which made the webinar a grand success. We have close to 200 participants who are listening to you, sir. So thank you very much to all of you. Also, I would like to again thank all the ICT team of Mizoram University for their hard work behind the scene. So with that, I would like to thank all of you and have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Namaskar to everyone.
Namaskar.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Then now we can end the session, and rest our refresher participants can join their regular link.
Yes.
To attend the next.
Yes, with this, we end the program, and then those our refresher participants, please join our regular refresher link. So now, Dr. BPG, I think now you are the host. You can end the.
Yes, I can end the meeting. Yes.